How to Read Tarot Cards, a Beginner's Complete Guide. Introduction, Opening the Door to Tarot. For centuries, tarot cards have fascinated mystics, artists, psychologists, historians, and curious seekers alike. Beautifully illustrated and rich with symbolism, tarot decks have inspired countless interpretations and have become one of the world's most recognizable tools for reflection and divination. But what exactly is tarot? Is it a way to predict the future? A mystical language of symbols? A tool for meditation and self-discovery? Or simply a deck of illustrated cards that encourages us to think differently about our lives? The answer depends largely on whom you ask. Some people use tarot as a spiritual practice, believing the cards can provide insight into possible paths and hidden influences. Others view tarot as a psychological tool that helps organize thoughts, clarify emotions, and encourage self-reflection. Many simply appreciate the artwork, history, and symbolism contained within the 78 cards. Regardless of belief, learning to read tarot is less about memorizing meanings and more about learning a symbolic language. Every card tells a story. Every spread creates a conversation. Every reading becomes an opportunity to explore questions from a new perspective. One of the reasons tarot has remained popular for more than 500 years is its remarkable flexibility. There are no special powers required to begin. You don't need to be psychic. You don't need years of mystical training. Like learning a musical instrument or a new language, reading tarot develops through observation, practice, and experience. The more familiar you become with the cards, the more naturally their meanings begin to unfold. In this guide, we'll explore tarot from the ground up. We'll look at its fascinating history, examine the structure of the deck, discover the symbolism of the Major and Minor Arcana, learn how to prepare for a reading, understand simple card spreads, avoid common beginner mistakes, and develop the confidence to interpret the cards for yourself and others. Whether you approach tarot as a spiritual tradition, a creative exercise, or a tool for personal insight, this guide is designed to provide a balanced and practical foundation. So shuffle the deck, clear your mind, and prepare to step into a world where every card tells a story, and every story begins with a single draw. Part 1: The Origins and History of Tarot. Long before tarot became associated with fortune-telling and mystical practices, it began life as a simple card game. Most historians trace the earliest tarot decks to northern Italy during the mid-15th century. Wealthy families commissioned beautifully painted cards as luxury items, and the decks were used for a game known as tarocchi. Similar card games are still played in parts of Europe today. These early decks were not originally designed for predicting the future. Instead, they featured 4 familiar suits, similar to modern playing cards, along with a unique set of illustrated trump cards. These trump cards eventually became known as the Major Arcana, the 22 symbolic cards that give tarot much of its mystery and depth. During the 18th century, tarot began to take on a very different role. European scholars and mystics became fascinated with ancient civilizations, hidden wisdom, and esoteric traditions. Some writers proposed that tarot contained secret knowledge passed down from ancient Egypt or other lost civilizations. While these theories captured the public imagination, historians have found no convincing evidence to support them. Instead, the historical record suggests that tarot developed in Renaissance Europe, gradually acquiring mystical interpretations over the following centuries. One of the earliest figures to popularize tarot as a tool for divination was Jean-Baptiste Alliette, better known by his pen name, Attila. In the late 1700s, he published books explaining how the cards could be used to interpret life's questions and even created one of the first tarot decks specifically intended for fortune-telling. During the 19th century, interest in the occult expanded dramatically. Secret societies, mystical organizations, and esoteric schools began incorporating tarot into their teachings. They connected the cards with astrology, numerology, alchemy, Kabbalah, and other symbolic systems. These interpretations greatly influenced how many readers understand tarot today. Perhaps the most influential development came in 1909 with the publication of the Rider-Waite Tarot Deck. Created by artist Pamela Colman Smith under the guidance of Arthur Edward Waite, this deck revolutionized tarot by illustrating every card, including the minor arcana, with detailed symbolic scenes. Earlier decks often showed simple arrangements of cups, swords, or coins on the numbered cards. The Rider-Waite deck transformed these into vivid images that told complete visual stories, making interpretation far more intuitive for beginners. Today, the Rider-Waite Smith deck remains the foundation for hundreds of modern tarot decks. Many contemporary artists have adapted its symbolism into themes ranging from fantasy and mythology to animals, nature, science fiction, and contemporary art. Although the artwork may vary, the underlying structure of the tarot remains remarkably consistent. The standard tarot deck contains 78 cards. 22 belong to the Major Arcana, representing significant life lessons, major transitions, and universal human experiences. The remaining 56 cards make up the Minor Arcana, focusing on the everyday events, relationships, challenges, and opportunities that shape daily life. Because of this structure, many readers describe the Major Arcana as the big picture of life's journey, while the Minor Arcana fills in the details of how that journey unfolds. Over the centuries, tarot has evolved far beyond its origins as a card game. Some use it as a spiritual guide. Some see it as a psychological mirror. Some approach it as an artistic tradition rich in symbolism. Others simply enjoy it as a creative tool for storytelling and self-reflection. Whatever one's perspective, tarot has endured for more than 500 years because it speaks through symbols rather than simple answers. And before learning to interpret those symbols, it is essential to understand the structure of the deck itself. In the next chapter, we'll explore the 78 cards in detail and discover how each part of the deck contributes to a complete tarot reading. Part 2: Understanding the structure of the tarot deck. At first glance, a tarot deck can seem overwhelming. 78 cards. Dozens of symbols. Characters, animals, landscapes, numbers, colors, and mysterious imagery. Many beginners worry they'll need to memorize hundreds of meanings before they can perform a reading. Fortunately, that's not how tarot works. Once you understand the deck structure, the cards become much easier to learn. Think of tarot as a book divided into chapters. Each chapter tells part of a larger story. The 78 cards are divided into two main groups: the Major Arcana and the Minor Arcana. Together, they create a symbolic map of human experience. Let's begin with the Major Arcana. These 22 cards are numbered from 0 to 21. They begin with the Fool, numbered 0, and conclude with the World, card 21. Many readers refer to this sequence as the Fool's Journey. Rather than representing one person's life literally, the cards symbolize the stages of personal growth that everyone experiences in different ways. The Fool represents new beginnings, curiosity, and stepping into the unknown. As the journey unfolds, the Fool encounters wisdom, challenges, choices, victories, setbacks, transformation, and ultimately fulfillment. The Major Arcana often appears during significant periods of life. A career change. A major relationship. A spiritual awakening. A difficult lesson. Or an important turning point. When several Major Arcana cards appear in a reading, many readers interpret this as a sign that larger themes or long-term influences are at work. The remaining 56 cards belong to the Minor Arcana. These focus on everyday life, daily decisions, relationships, work, finances, emotions, challenges, and opportunities. The Minor Arcana is divided into 4 suits. Each suit contains 14 cards. The 4 suits are Cups, Wands, Swords, and Pentacles. Each represents a different aspect of human experience. Cups are associated with emotions, relationships, intuition, compassion, creativity, and matters of the heart. Many cup cards involve love, friendship, family, dreams, and emotional well-being. Their traditional element is water. Wands represent energy, inspiration, ambition, passion, creativity, adventure, and personal growth. They often appear during periods of excitement, new projects, travel, or pursuing goals. Their element is fire. Swords deal with intellect, communication, truth, conflict, decision-making, and personal challenges. Although some sword cards can appear difficult, they often encourage honesty, clarity, and thoughtful action. Their element is air. Pentacles, sometimes called coins or discs in other decks, represent the physical world. They focus on money, career, health, education, home, security, and practical matters. Their associated element is earth. Within each suit are 10 numbered cards, beginning with ace and continuing through 10. The numbers themselves tell a story. Many readers find it helpful to think of them as stages in a cycle. The ace represents beginnings or potential. The 2 introduces balance or partnership. The 3 suggests growth and expansion. The 4 often represents stability. The 5 introduces change or challenge. The 6 points toward harmony or progress. The 7 encourages evaluation or perseverance. The 8 reflects movement, learning, or mastery. The 9 represents maturity or nearing completion. The 10 brings fulfillment, completion, or the end of one cycle before another begins. Each suit also includes 4 court cards. These are the Page, Knight, Queen, and King. Court cards are often the most challenging for beginners because they can represent different things depending on the reading. Sometimes they describe actual people. At other times they represent personality traits, attitudes, or approaches to a situation. For example, a queen might symbolize wisdom, compassion, or confidence rather than referring to a specific woman. A knight may represent action, determination, or the arrival of change. With experience, readers learn to interpret court cards based on the surrounding cards and the question being asked. One of the greatest strengths of tarot is that every card gains additional meaning through its relationship with the others. A single card tells part of a story. Several cards together create a conversation. This is why experienced readers rarely rely on memorized definitions alone. Instead, they look for patterns, repeating symbols, similar themes, contrasting energies, and how one card influences another. Understanding the structure of the deck transforms what first appears to be 78 separate cards into one interconnected symbolic system. Once you recognize that system, learning tarot becomes far less intimidating. The next step is to meet the heart of the deck itself, the 22 major arcana, and discover why these remarkable cards have captivated readers for generations. Part 3, The Major Arcana, The Fool's Journey. If the tarot deck were a novel, the major arcana would be its central storyline. These 22 cards represent life's biggest lessons, turning points, and moments of transformation. They speak of growth, challenges, choices, endings, and new beginnings. Many tarot readers describe the sequence as the fool's journey. The fool is not foolish in the ordinary sense. Instead, the card represents someone standing at the beginning of life's adventure, curious, optimistic, and ready to step into the unknown. From there, each card introduces a new lesson. Whether you interpret these cards spiritually, psychologically, or symbolically, they form a remarkable story of human development. Let's take a brief tour through each of the major arcana. 0. The Fool. The Fool symbolizes new beginnings, curiosity, spontaneity, and unlimited potential. It reminds us that every great journey begins with a single step into the unknown. I. The Magician. The magician represents skill, confidence, creativity, and using the resources already available. It encourages taking action and turning ideas into reality. 2. The High Priestess. Quiet, intuitive, and mysterious, the High Priestess reminds us to trust inner wisdom. Not every answer comes from logic, some come through patience and reflection. 3. The Empress. The Empress represents abundance, nurturing, creativity, and growth. She symbolizes the ability to cultivate ideas, relationships, and opportunities. 4. The Emperor. The Emperor stands for structure, leadership, stability, responsibility, and discipline. He reminds us of the value of organization and clear boundaries. V. The Hierophant. Traditionally associated with learning, tradition, mentorship, and established wisdom, the Hierophant encourages seeking knowledge from trusted sources while understanding the value of shared traditions. 6. The Lovers. Although often associated with romance, the lovers also represent choices, values, harmony, and meaningful partnerships of all kinds. 7. The Chariot. The Chariot symbolizes determination, focus, self-control, and forward movement. Success often comes through discipline rather than luck. 8. Strength. Strength reminds us that true courage often appears as patience, compassion, and quiet resilience rather than force or aggression. 9. The Hermit. The Hermit represents introspection, solitude, learning, and personal wisdom. Sometimes stepping back allows us to see more clearly. X. Wheel of Fortune. Life moves in cycles. The Wheel of Fortune reminds us that change is inevitable. Periods of challenge and opportunity both come and go. 11. Justice. Justice symbolizes fairness, truth, accountability, and balanced decision-making. It encourages honesty with ourselves as well as others. 12. The Hanged Man. This unusual card invites us to pause, surrender, and see situations from a different perspective. Sometimes progress requires letting go rather than pushing forward. 13. Death. Perhaps the most misunderstood card in tarot, death rarely refers to physical death. Instead, it symbolizes endings, transformation, and the beginning of something new. It reminds us that growth often requires change. 14. Temperance. Temperance represents balance, patience, moderation, and harmony. It encourages combining different aspects of life into a healthy whole. 15. The Devil. The Devil explores themes of attachment, temptation, unhealthy habits, fear, and limiting beliefs. It asks us to examine what may be holding us back. 16. The Tower. The Tower symbolizes sudden change, disruption, and the collapse of outdated structures. While often uncomfortable, these moments can create space for meaningful growth. 17. The Star. After upheaval comes hope. The star represents healing, inspiration, optimism, and renewed faith in the future. 18. The Moon. The moon explores dreams, intuition, uncertainty, illusion, and the subconscious mind. It reminds us that not everything is immediately clear. 19. The Sun. The Sun is one of the most joyful cards in the deck. It represents success, vitality, happiness, confidence, and clarity. XX. Judgment. Judgment symbolizes awakening, reflection, personal growth, and recognizing new possibilities after learning from the past. XXI. The World. The journey concludes with the world representing completion, accomplishment, fulfillment, and the beginning of an entirely new cycle. Taken together, these 22 cards describe experiences shared by nearly everyone. We all face beginnings. We all encounter challenges. We all experience moments of uncertainty, transformation, hope, and renewal. This is one reason the Major Arcana feels so universal. The cards do not predict a single future. Instead, they reflect timeless patterns found throughout the human experience. Once you become familiar with these larger life themes, the remaining 56 cards, the Minor Arcana, begin to fill in the details, showing how these major lessons unfold through everyday life, relationships, work, emotions, and practical decisions. Part 4, the Minor Arcana, the details of everyday life. While the Major Arcana represents life's major turning points, the Minor Arcana focuses on the experiences that make up our everyday lives. These are the conversations we have, the decisions we make, the relationships we build, the opportunities we pursue, the setbacks we overcome. In many readings, the Minor Arcana appears more frequently than the Major Arcana because much of life is shaped not by dramatic events, but by ordinary choices made one day at a time. The 56 Minor Arcana cards are divided into 4 suits. Each suit represents a different area of human experience. Understanding these 4 suits is one of the biggest steps toward becoming a confident tarot reader. Let's begin with the Suit of Cups. The Suit of Cups. Cups are connected with emotions, relationships, intuition, compassion, creativity, and the inner world. Whenever cup cards appear, they often point toward feelings rather than facts. They may reflect love, friendship, family, forgiveness, imagination, or emotional healing. The Ace of Cups often represents new emotional beginnings or deep personal fulfillment. The Two of Cups commonly symbolizes partnership, mutual respect, or meaningful connection. The Three of Cups celebrates friendship, community, and shared joy. Not every cup card is cheerful, however. The Five of Cups often reminds us of disappointment while encouraging us to recognize what remains rather than focusing only on what has been lost. Overall, cups ask one simple question. What does your heart have to say? The Suit of Wands. If cups represent emotion, wands represent action. This suit is associated with ambition, inspiration, passion, creativity, adventure, confidence, and personal growth. Many entrepreneurs, artists, performers, athletes, and innovators see wands appear during periods of excitement and new opportunities. The Ace of Wands suggests fresh inspiration. The Three of Wands often points toward expansion and looking ahead. The Eight of Wands frequently symbolizes rapid progress, communication, or events unfolding quickly. The Ten of Wands, however, reminds us that enthusiasm without balance can become overwhelming responsibility. Wands encourage us to ask, what inspires me to move forward? The Suit of Swords. Many beginners become nervous when they encounter sword cards. They often carry a reputation for being difficult. In reality, swords simply deal with truth, communication, decisions, challenges, and the power of the mind. Life sometimes requires difficult conversations, important choices, honest self-examination. Sword cards often appear during these moments. The Ace of Swords represents clarity and new understanding. The Two of Swords reflects indecision. The Six of Swords suggests moving toward calmer circumstances after difficulty. The Queen of Swords symbolizes wisdom, honesty, and clear communication. Rather than predicting disaster, the Suit of Swords often encourages intellectual honesty and thoughtful decision-making. Its guiding question is, what is the truth? The Suit of Pentacles. Pentacles bring us firmly into the physical world. This suit concerns work, money, health, education, home, practical responsibilities, and long-term security. Many career readings contain numerous pentacle cards. The Ace of Pentacles often represents new financial or career opportunities. The Three of Pentacles highlights teamwork and developing skills. The Eight of Pentacles symbolizes dedication, craftsmanship, and mastering a trade through consistent practice. The Ten of Pentacles often represents lasting stability, family, and long-term success. Pentacles remind us that meaningful goals are usually built through patience and steady effort. Their central question becomes, what practical steps can I take? Understanding the numbers. One of the easiest ways to remember tarot is to notice how the numbered cards tend to follow similar themes across all four suits. Although every card has its own unique meaning, the numbers often tell a familiar story. Aces represent beginnings and potential. Twos introduce balance, partnership, or important choices. Threes reflect growth and expansion. Fours create stability. Fives introduce challenge or change. Sixes bring harmony or recovery. Sevens encourage reflection and perseverance. Eights represent movement, progress, or developing mastery. Nines suggest wisdom, maturity, or nearing completion. Tens complete the cycle and prepare the way for a new beginning. Recognizing these repeating patterns makes the deck much easier to learn. Instead of memorizing 78 completely separate meanings, you begin seeing familiar themes expressed through different areas of life. The Court cards. The final four cards in each suit are known as the Court cards. These are the Page, Knight, Queen, and King. Many beginners find them challenging because they do not always represent actual people. Sometimes they do. At other times they describe attitudes, behaviors, or ways of approaching a situation. Pages often symbolize curiosity, learning, and new opportunities. Knights represent movement, determination, and taking action. Queens embody inner mastery, wisdom, and emotional or intellectual maturity. Kings often represent leadership, confidence, responsibility, and experience. As your reading skills develop, you'll discover that court cards become some of the richest and most flexible cards in the deck. Together, the four suits, the numbered cards, and the court cards create an extraordinary symbolic language. Each card contributes a piece of the story. The art of tarot lies not in reading individual cards in isolation, but in seeing how those stories connect. Now that you understand the structure of the deck, it's time to learn what every beginner wants to know next. How do you actually perform your first tarot reading? Part 5, Your First Tarot Reading, Step by Step. Now that you understand the structure of the tarot deck, it's time to perform your first reading. This is where many beginners become nervous. They worry about saying the wrong thing, choosing the wrong card, or forgetting the meanings they have been studying. The good news is that tarot is not a test. There is no perfect reading. Every experienced reader began exactly where you are now, with curiosity, a little uncertainty, and a willingness to learn. The first step is creating a comfortable environment. Choose a quiet place where you won't be interrupted. Some readers enjoy lighting a candle or playing soft music, while others simply prefer a peaceful room with no distractions. There is no rule requiring a special atmosphere. The goal is simply to help you focus. Before touching the cards, take a few slow breaths. Allow your mind to settle. Think about the question you want to explore. Good tarot questions are usually open-ended. Instead of asking, "Will I get the job?" try asking, "What should I understand about this career opportunity?" Instead of asking, "Will this relationship last forever?" consider asking, "What energy surrounds this relationship, and what can I learn from it?" Open questions encourage reflection rather than simple yes or no answers. Next, shuffle the deck. There is no single correct method. Some readers spread the cards across the table and mix them gently with their hands. Others shuffle like ordinary playing cards. Some cut the deck several times. Do whatever feels natural. Many readers focus on their question while shuffling, allowing the process itself to become a moment of quiet concentration. When you feel ready, stop shuffling. You may cut the deck or simply draw cards from the top. Again, there are no universal rules. One of the easiest layouts for beginners is the one-card reading. Draw a single card and ask yourself, what stands out first? What emotions does the image create? Which colors, symbols, or characters immediately catch your attention? Only after observing the artwork should you consult the guidebook. Many beginners make the mistake of looking up meanings before truly seeing the card. The artwork often tells you far more than a list of keywords. Once you're comfortable with one-card readings, try the three-card spread. This is one of the most popular layouts in tarot because it is simple, flexible, and surprisingly informative. There are many ways to interpret three cards. One common approach is Card 1, the past. Card 2, the present. Card 3, the future or likely direction if current circumstances continue. Another interpretation is situation, challenge, guidance, or mind, body, spirit. The meanings depend on your question. The spread provides structure while allowing the cards to interact naturally. As you examine the cards together, look for patterns. Do several cards belong to the same suit? Are there many major arcana cards? Do similar colors appear throughout the artwork? Are several figures facing toward or away from one another? These visual relationships often add important layers of meaning. One helpful habit is keeping a tarot journal. After each reading, write down the date, your question, the cards drawn, your first impressions, and any events that unfold afterward. Over time, you'll notice how your understanding grows. Cards that once seemed mysterious begin revealing consistent themes in your own life and readings. Most experienced readers will tell you that intuition develops through observation rather than memorization. The more you work with the cards, the more familiar they become. You'll begin recognizing recurring symbols, repeated patterns, personal associations, and subtle connections that no guidebook can fully explain. Perhaps the most important advice for beginners is this: don't rush. Tarot is not about finding instant answers. It is about developing thoughtful questions. Each reading is a conversation, not a verdict. Some cards will make immediate sense. Others may only become meaningful days, weeks, or even months later. That is perfectly normal. Learning tarot is a journey, much like learning a new language. With patience and regular practice, the 78 cards gradually become trusted companions for reflection, insight, and personal growth. In the next chapter, we'll explore the symbols hidden throughout the tarot deck and discover why colors, animals, landscapes, and tiny details often carry just as much meaning as the cards themselves. Part 6: Understanding Tarot Symbolism. One of the greatest strengths of tarot is that it speaks through images rather than simple definitions. Every card contains layers of symbolism. The more you observe these details, the richer your readings become. You don't need to memorize every symbol immediately. Instead, learn to become an attentive observer. Ask yourself, what do I notice first? What emotion does this image create? Where is my attention naturally drawn? Often, your first impression becomes an important part of the reading. Let's begin with colors. The language of color. Color plays a powerful role throughout the tarot. Although different decks use different artistic styles, certain color themes appear repeatedly. Yellow often represents optimism, wisdom, enlightenment, and clarity. Blue is commonly associated with calmness, intuition, communication, and spiritual awareness. Red symbolizes passion, courage, energy, determination, and strong emotions. Green frequently represents growth, healing, abundance, and renewal. Black may suggest mystery, transformation, the unknown, or hidden aspects of a situation. White often symbolizes purity, truth, new beginnings, and spiritual understanding. Rather than treating these meanings as fixed rules, think of them as clues that contribute to the overall story. Animals in tarot. Animals appear throughout many tarot decks, especially the Rider-Waite-Smith tradition. Each brings symbolic meaning. Dogs often represent loyalty, protection, companionship, and faithful instincts. Cats may symbolize independence, mystery, intuition, and quiet observation. Horses commonly represent movement, ambition, determination, and personal drive. Birds often suggest freedom, communication, perspective, or spiritual insight. Lions symbolize courage, inner strength, confidence, and controlled power. Snakes may represent transformation, wisdom, healing, temptation, or cycles of renewal. Again, context matters. A bird flying freely carries a different message than one trapped in a cage. Landscapes tell stories. Notice the backgrounds. Mountains often symbolize obstacles, long-term goals, or spiritual growth. Flowing rivers suggest emotional movement and life's continuous changes. Gardens frequently represent growth, creativity, and abundance. Deserts may reflect isolation, endurance, or personal testing. Storm clouds can indicate tension, uncertainty, or approaching change. Bright sunlight often represents hope, confidence, and clarity. Even the weather contributes to the message. Direction matters. Pay attention to where people are looking. Are they facing forward toward new opportunities? Looking backward at the past? Walking away from something? Approaching another figure? Small details like these often reveal relationships between the cards in a spread. If two figures appear to face each other, they may suggest cooperation or communication. If they turn away, the reading may involve distance, misunderstanding, or different priorities. Objects carry meaning. Many objects appear repeatedly throughout the tarot. Keys often represent opportunity, knowledge, or unlocking hidden potential. Crowns symbolize authority, mastery, and responsibility. Lanterns suggest guidance, wisdom, and searching for truth. Bridges often indicate transition or moving between different stages of life. Doors represent new opportunities. Roads symbolize life's journey and the choices ahead. Trees commonly represent growth, stability, family roots, or the passage of time. These recurring symbols create a visual language that becomes more familiar with practice. Numbers have their own story. Earlier, we explored how numbered cards follow repeating themes. This symbolism extends beyond the minor arcana. 1 often represents beginnings. 2 suggests partnership or duality. 3 reflects creativity and expansion. 4 brings stability. 5 introduces disruption. 6 restores harmony. 7 encourages reflection. 8 builds strength through action. 9 approaches completion. 10 concludes one cycle before another begins. Recognizing these patterns helps you interpret unfamiliar cards more naturally. Trusting observation before interpretation. Many beginners immediately reach for the guidebook. Experienced readers often do the opposite. They spend a few moments simply looking. What captures your attention first? What emotion does the artwork evoke? Does the card feel calm or tense? Bright or dark? Hopeful or uncertain? The guidebook offers valuable information, but your own observations also matter. Tarot is a conversation between the symbolism of the card and the question being asked. As your confidence grows, you'll begin noticing details that once seemed insignificant. A small flower. A distant mountain. An animal hidden in the corner. A figure's expression. These subtle elements often add surprising depth to a reading. The beauty of tarot is that every reading becomes a fresh encounter with the artwork. The cards do not change. Yet your understanding continues to evolve. That is one reason experienced readers can study the same deck for decades and still discover something new. In the next chapter, we'll explore common beginner mistakes, helpful reading techniques, and practical advice that will help you develop confidence while avoiding many of the frustrations that new tarot readers often experience. Part 7: Common Beginner Mistakes and How to Avoid Them. Every experienced tarot reader was once a beginner. Everyone has forgotten card meanings, misinterpreted a spread, asked confusing questions, or wondered whether they were doing it right. The truth is, learning tarot is a gradual process. Mistakes are not signs of failure, they're part of developing your own reading style. Knowing the most common beginner pitfalls can help you progress with greater confidence. Mistake 1: Trying to memorize every card. Many newcomers spend hours trying to memorize all 78 cards before performing a single reading. While learning the traditional meanings is helpful, tarot is much more than a collection of definitions. Each card combines symbolism, color, number, emotion, and context. Instead of memorizing long lists of keywords, focus on understanding the story each card tells. Over time, the meanings become much easier to remember because they begin to feel natural rather than forced. Mistake 2: Reading cards in isolation. Tarot works like a conversation. A single card provides information, but several cards together create a complete picture. For example, the tower beside the star tells a different story than the tower beside the devil. The surrounding cards shape and refine the meaning. Always look at the relationships between the cards before drawing conclusions. Mistake 3: Asking questions that are too narrow. Beginners often ask questions like, will I get the job? Will they call me tomorrow? Will I win the lottery? Questions with simple yes or no answers rarely produce the richest readings. Instead, try asking, what can I learn about this opportunity? What should I understand about this relationship? How can I best prepare for this situation? These questions invite deeper insight and encourage thoughtful reflection. Mistake 4: Assuming every difficult card is bad. Many people become anxious when they draw cards like Death, the Tower, or the Ten of Swords. These cards can certainly represent challenging experiences. However, they rarely mean disaster. The Death card often symbolizes transformation. The Tower may represent breaking free from outdated beliefs or circumstances. Even the Ten of Swords can suggest that a difficult chapter is finally ending, making room for recovery. Every tarot card contains opportunities for learning and growth. Mistake 5. Ignoring your own observations. Guidebooks are valuable, especially when you're starting. But don't let them replace your own perception. Notice what stands out in the artwork. How did the figures interact? What emotions arise as you study the image? Sometimes your first impression reveals something meaningful that isn't listed in any book. Tarot combines traditional symbolism with personal insight. Both are important. Mistake 6. Reading too often about the same question. It's tempting to ask the same question repeatedly, hoping for a different answer. Many experienced readers advise against this. Drawing multiple readings on the same issue within a short period can create confusion rather than clarity. Instead, reflect on the first reading. Give events time to unfold before asking again. Tarot encourages patience as much as curiosity. Mistake 7. Believing every reading must predict the future. One of the biggest misconceptions about tarot is that it functions like a crystal ball. Many readers instead view tarot as a tool for exploring possibilities rather than fixed outcomes. The cards often highlight current patterns, influences, and likely directions if circumstances remain the same. Human choices still matter. New decisions can change future possibilities. Seen this way, tarot becomes less about certainty and more about awareness. Developing your own reading style. As you gain experience, you'll naturally develop methods that feel comfortable. Some readers rely heavily on symbolism. Others emphasize intuition. Some enjoy traditional interpretations. Others incorporate journaling, meditation, or storytelling into their practice. There is room for many different approaches. The most important quality is consistency. Practice regularly. Keep notes. Review past readings. Notice how your understanding changes over time. You'll often find that cards you once found confusing gradually become some of the easiest to interpret. Remember why you're reading. Whether you view tarot as a spiritual practice, a creative exercise, or a tool for self-reflection, the purpose is not to create fear or certainty. A good tarot reading encourages thoughtful consideration. It offers perspective. It raises useful questions. And it helps people explore situations from angles they may not have previously considered. Confidence does not come from knowing every meaning. It comes from trusting the process of observation, reflection, and continual learning. In the final chapter, we'll bring everything together with practical advice for continuing your tarot journey, choosing your next deck, and developing your skills for years to come. Conclusion: continuing your tarot journey. You have now reached the end of this beginner's guide to reading tarot, but in many ways, your real journey is only just beginning. The tarot is unlike most subjects you can study. It is not something you master by reading a single book or memorizing a list of meanings. Instead, it is a symbolic language that becomes richer with time, experience, and observation. Every reading teaches something new. Every question offers a different perspective. Every card has the potential to reveal another layer of meaning. That is why people have continued exploring tarot for more than 500 years. One of the best pieces of advice for new readers is to practice regularly, but keep it simple. Drawing one card each morning can be an excellent way to become familiar with the deck. Spend a few moments studying the artwork before looking up the traditional interpretation. Ask yourself, what story is this card telling? What emotions does it evoke? How might its message relate to my day? There is no need to rush. Over weeks and months, the symbolism will become increasingly familiar. A tarot journal is another valuable tool. Record the cards you draw, the questions you ask, and your first impressions. Later, revisit those entries to see how events unfolded. You may be surprised by the patterns that emerge, not because the cards predicted every detail, but because they encouraged you to notice themes, choices, and possibilities you might otherwise have overlooked. As your confidence grows, you may wish to explore different tarot decks. The Rider-Waite-Smith deck remains one of the best choices for beginners because so many books and learning resources are based on its imagery. Once you feel comfortable with its symbolism, you can branch out into decks inspired by mythology, nature, fantasy, animals, folklore, modern art, or countless other themes. Although the artwork changes, the underlying structure of the tarot remains largely the same. Remember that tarot is not about finding absolute certainty. Life is constantly changing. People make new decisions. Circumstances evolve. Whether you see tarot as a spiritual practice, a creative exercise, or a psychological tool for self-reflection, its greatest value often lies in encouraging thoughtful questions rather than providing unquestionable answers. A good reading invites reflection. It helps you consider possibilities. It encourages self-awareness. And sometimes, it simply reminds you to slow down and look at a situation from a different perspective. Throughout this guide, we've explored the history of tarot, the structure of the deck, the major and minor arcana, symbolism, reading techniques, and practical advice for beginners. Taken together, these lessons provide a strong foundation, but they are only the first step. Like any worthwhile skill, reading tarot improves through curiosity, patience, and practice. Some readers eventually become skilled at interpreting cards for friends and family. Others use tarot solely for private reflection. Many simply enjoy collecting beautifully illustrated decks and learning the fascinating stories behind their symbolism. There is no single correct way to appreciate tarot. What matters most is approaching it with an open mind, a willingness to learn, and respect for the many traditions and perspectives that surround it. Whether you believe the cards offer spiritual guidance, psychological insight, creative inspiration, or simply an opportunity for thoughtful reflection, tarot continues to invite people to pause, ask meaningful questions, and explore the many possibilities that life presents. Perhaps that is the greatest lesson the tarot offers. The future is not a single path waiting to be discovered. It is a journey shaped by the choices we make, the wisdom we gain, and the courage we find along the way. May your journey with the cards be one of discovery, learning, and endless curiosity.